Before we continue, this report is based on documented public records, federal transcripts, and verified court hearing documents. Our mission is to analyze the investigative timeline of the Romeca Meeks-Blackmon case for educational and news purposes only. We do not incite harassment. We follow the paper trail. Under the law, all individuals are presumed innocent until proven guilty. They say imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, but in the case of Quadajah Holly Johnson, it was the first sign of a deadly obsession. For the viewers of Cold Trail Crime, we are moving past the he said, she said, and looking at the cold, hard reality of a woman who spent years trying to replace the victim she eventually murdered. This is not a story of a sudden fight. It is a story of a calculated, slow-burning resentment that ended in a South Loop parking lot. If you believe that justice should be as relentless as the crime itself, hit that subscribe button for Cold Trail Crime and like this video to help us keep Romeca's memory alive. The public record reveals that Holly Johnson's use of her concealed carry license, CCL, wasn't just about protection. It was about empowerment. Legal experts following the case have noted that having a CCL comes with a duty to de-escalate. Yet, every documented action Holly took, from returning to the car for the weapon to firing 3 times at an unarmed woman, shows a total abandonment of that duty. She didn't use the gun to stop a threat. She used it to end a rivalry that she had spent years obsessing over. But was Holly Johnson acting alone? Was it just out of rivalry, or was it a well-calculated murder? Let's move on. This obsession took a dark, tactical turn in the months leading up to September 8. The public record shows that Quadajah didn't just use social media to track Romeca, she used the legal system. Between late 2024 and mid-2025, Johnson filed multiple stalking no-contact orders against Romeca. On the surface, it looked like a woman seeking protection. But in the eyes of investigators and the victim's family, this was the evil part of the plan. It was a paper trail designed to label Romeca as the aggressor. By filing these orders, Quadajah was effectively setting a trap, ensuring that if a confrontation ever happened, she could point to the court records and scream self-defense. It was a cold, calculated move to weaponize the law against an innocent mother, but the mask of the victim completely shattered on that fateful morning. Witnesses at the school zone didn't see a woman in fear, they saw an executioner. According to court testimony from the 2026 hearings, the confrontation began as a physical struggle, but it was Quadajah who escalated it to a death sentence. While Romeca was reportedly being restrained in a chokehold by Carlos Smith, Quadajah didn't call for help. She didn't try to de-escalate. Instead, she walked to her vehicle, retrieved a 9mm firearm, and returned to the struggle. This is the moment where self-defense dies. Once she reached the safety of her car, the threat was gone, but Quadajah chose to go back. She chose to fire 3 shots. The final shot, fired into Romeca's face while she was helpless on the ground, was not an act of protection. It was an act of murder. No, calculated murder. Perhaps the most haunting evidence is what happened in the seconds after the smoke cleared. Multiple bystanders reported a scene that still chills the South Loop community to this day. As Romeca lay dying, her life force draining into the pavement, Quadajah didn't look horrified. She didn't drop the gun in shock. Witnesses testified that she and Carlos Smith shared a celebratory fist bump. A mother had just been executed in front of a school, and the woman who pulled the trigger was celebrating. A judge in January 2026 would later remark that celebrating in the street after taking a life is completely inconsistent with the behavior of someone who acted in fear. Even in custody allegedly, the evil doesn't stop. Since her arrest, the public has watched as Johnson's defense team tries to navigate the fact that she was pregnant at the time of the shooting, using her unborn child as a shield to seek release. Meanwhile, her supporters have reportedly used social media to continue the harassment that Romeca suffered in life, mocking the victim and her grieving family. This is the reality of Quadajah Johnson, a woman who used the law, used her pregnancy, and used a firearm to destroy a family. As we wait for the June 2026 DNA results and the final trial dates, the question remains, how did she get away with the harassment for so long? The trail for Romeca is a trail of, but also a trail of missed red flags and calculated murder. We are committed to following this case until the final gavel falls. You are watching Cold Trail Crime. Stay vigilant, stay informed, and subscribe to make sure the truth is never silenced. But the coordination between Quadajah, Holly, Johnson, and Carlos Smith didn't end with a fist bump over a dying mother. It extended into a systematic attempt to rewrite the truth before the police could even arrive. While Romeca lay on the pavement, eyewitnesses reported a chilling lack of urgency from either of them. Public records suggest that instead of providing aid, the focus shifted to damage control. If you think the cover-up is just as bad as the crime, you need to subscribe to Cold Trail Crime and like this video to ensure this story doesn't get buried. In the immediate aftermath, as sirens wailed in the distance, reports indicate that the narrative of self-defense was already being synchronized. Witnesses described a brief, intense conversation between Johnson and Smith, a moment of alignment before they had to face the law. This wasn't the behavior of two people who had just been forced into a tragedy. It was the behavior of a team. And then there is Carlos Smith's documented silence. For weeks after the shooting, while Holly was processed and the community cried for justice, Smith remained in the shadows. Public reports show that he didn't initially cooperate with the full scope of the investigation, leading many to believe he was waiting to see what evidence would stick. The unspeakable action here is a man who allegedly watched his child's mother be executed and then stood by the woman who pulled the trigger. As we move toward the trial dates in late 2026, the prosecution is focusing on the common design rule. This legal theory suggests that if two people work together toward a criminal goal, they are both responsible for the outcome. The disturbing aspect in this case is not just the pull of a trigger. It's the months of stalking, the fake legal filings, the physical restraint in a chokehold, and the final cold-hearted celebration. The system may move slowly, but the trail of evidence is documented in black and white. From the fraud convictions to the mirror image social media posts, the mask is falling off for both Holly Johnson and Carlos Smith. But the digital footprints left by Quadajah, Holly, Johnson, and Carlos Smith reveal something far more sinister than a simple domestic dispute. As investigators dig into the subpoenaed text messages from the hours leading up to the school zone ambush, a picture of chilling coordination begins to emerge. In early 2026, details from court filings suggest that the communication between Johnson and Smith was not about de-escalation, but about confrontation. If you want to see the evidence that could finally break this case wide open, you need to subscribe to Cold Trail Crime and like this video as we expose the messages the defense didn't want you to hear. These text messages allegedly show a pattern of tracking Romeca's movements with surgical precision. While Romeca was focused on her son's fresh start at school, public reports indicate that Holly and Carlos were discussing her exact location. One particularly disturbing exchange reportedly shows them coordinating their arrival at the school to ensure they were there at the same time as Romeca. This wasn't a chance meeting. It was a scheduled intersection of violence. The prosecution is now using these digital records to dismantle the self-defense narrative, arguing that you cannot claim to be in fear of someone you are actively hunting. Holly Johnson's manipulation becomes even more evident in how she reportedly used her pregnancy as a tactical delay. After the shooting on September 8, Johnson walked free for over 3 months while her legal team worked to frame the narrative. During this time, while Romeca's family was in agony,
You want to say something to her, look down at your heart. And whatever you say to her, say it to her right there. The same way I have to do. I have to look right here. And I have to talk to her. And ask her, just tell me what happened. How did she just walk away? How? When they told you that he had her in the headlock, how did he even walk away? Why did they was so easy to walk away? They tell me, look at the video, they bumping fences. I don't know about any of that because I really can't even focus.
Johnson was reportedly active online, with supporters allegedly mocking the victim. Even in recent April 2026 hearings, she has continued to petition the court for release, using her pregnancy to seek leniency that a judge has repeatedly denied, citing the sheer brutality of the act, shooting an unarmed mother 3 times, including once in the face. The most damning piece of this remains Carlos Smith's documented presence and participation. According to eyewitness accounts that emerged in court, Smith didn't just watch. He actively prevented Romeca from escaping. Witnesses waiting at a nearby bus stop observed Smith swinging a car door at Romeca and eventually pinning her in a chokehold. It was only after she managed to break free from his grasp that Holly Johnson, who had walked away to retrieve her firearm, returned to fire the fatal shots. If the person who holds the victim is just as responsible as the person who pulls the trigger, why is Carlos Smith still walking free? As the community continues to sign petitions for his arrest, the legal clock is ticking toward the final trial dates in late 2026. We are tracking every court transcript and every newly released text message to ensure that every participant in this tragedy is held accountable. This is cold trail crime. The evidence is clear, the warnings were documented, and the truth is finally coming to light. Subscribe and stay with us as we follow the final path to justice for Romeca Meeks-Blackmon. The terror in that South Loop parking lot wasn't just about the shots fired. It was about the cold, deliberate choices made in the seconds between them. Witnesses reported a chilling pause after the first shot hit Romeca. A moment where Quadajah, Holly Johnson, allegedly looked at her target before pulling the trigger again. This wasn't a panicked reaction. It was an execution-style finish in broad daylight. If you believe that a pause proves premeditation, you need to subscribe to Cold Trail Crime and like this video as we break down the final autopsy details the defense tried to suppress. The autopsy report, which surfaced in late 2025, reportedly confirms that Romeca was shot at extremely close range, with the fatal wound delivered to her face while she was already incapacitated. Even more disturbing are the eyewitness accounts stating that Holly was heard explicitly threatening to kill Romeca during the struggle. While Carlos Smith allegedly held Romeca in that headlock, preventing her from escaping or defending herself allegedly, Holly didn't just fire blindly. She allegedly targeted Romeca's face with precision. This level of brutality is exactly why a judge in April 2026 once again denied Holly's request for release. Despite her legal team's constant use of her pregnancy as a bid for sympathy, the court has remained focused on the evil nature of the act itself. The judge pointed out that no one acting in fear for their life takes the time to pause between shots or celebrates with a fist bump while the victim is still bleeding out on the pavement. Every new transcript and every witness statement points to the same conclusion. This was a coordinated ambush. The part of this story isn't just one person. It's a team that allegedly planned, executed, and then celebrated the death of a mother. As we wait for the final trial to begin in late 2026, the question for the community remains: how many more people have to suffer before the system truly holds everyone accountable? This is cold trail crime. We have the documents, we have the transcripts, and we are not stopping until the full truth is out. Subscribe now and help us demand justice for Romeca Meeks-Blackmon.